I do love reading books. That's something that I have always loved to do, and I don't apologize for that. As far as my education is concerned, I think I'm, for the most part, self-taught. I don't have a degree in anything, so therefore, I'm not an expert on any subject. So, here we go, our little chit-chat once again, off the cuff and unscripted. And speaking about books, a friend of mine just got hold of a book. It has to do with longevity and dieting. And even though I have not personally read the book, I did read some reviews of it, and I am impressed. Because, look, I'm 78 years old, so I do have an interest in longevity. But as far as I'm concerned, based strictly on my experiences all those years, I think longevity has an awful lot to do with luck, too. And what I don't believe in, I don't believe that longevity has anything to do with a celestial being sitting up in the clouds somewhere drinking milk and honey. I don't believe that, simply because of the arbitrary ways that people live and die. A 5-year-old, for example, who dies because of its race and country of origin, and then to say that's the will of this celestial being up there somewhere, I think is insulting even my intelligence. So, what about this longevity? Well, this is what I have gleaned from reading and just from being alive. I think, yes, diet has a lot to do with it. You really got to eat well, and quite frankly, you ought to be responsible for what you eat. No one should tell you what to eat, because you do have a brain, a mind, and you can discern what is good for you and what is not good for you. And I believe that longevity has an awful lot to do with, other than luck, it has a lot to do with what you eat. I also believe that longevity has a lot to do with the habits that you have developed. Now, as you know, habits are the results of signals that are not attended to. For example, if you have a signal of getting into a car, and as you get into a car, you light up a cigarette, that's a signal. As you finish a meal, you light a cigarette. That's a signal. Right after having sex, you light a cigarette. Those are signals. And before you know it, those signals turn into habit. And what happens with habits, of course, is eventually, because it's a habit, you no longer think about it. So what does it take to break a habit? First, it is about recognizing the signals that are involved, and then breaking those signals. When you get into your car, you don't light a cigarette. After sex, you don't light a cigarette. After a meal, you don't light a cigarette. So what happened, there is a discipline involved, and at first you must force yourself to break these habits. Eventually, because you have trained your mind not to follow these signals, you will develop the habit of not doing certain things. You understand? I also believe that the two other factors in longevity happens to be stress and the display of anger. Now, stress is a funny thing. To me, there is no point in being stressful over something that you cannot control. So, for me, you'll have to make up your own mind on this one. I don't watch television very much, because the evening shows have to do with killing and murder and mayhem, and I'm not a fan of killing, murder, mayhem. So I don't watch the evening shows on television. In watching the news, 99.9% of the time, there is nothing I can do about it. Nothing. And when that 0.001% happens, then I must decide, what are you going to do about that? And if I decide not to do anything about it, then I need to put it aside. if I decide to do something about it, then I must act and I must do something. I use the thoughts of Microdac to expose a lot of things that I see, hoping that you will see what I say, or rather listen to what I say, and then form your own opinion, knowing that I don't know a lot about what I'm talking about. Now, anger. Anger to me is something like the same thing as judgment. Anger, 90% of the time, has nothing to do with me at all. I am simply angry at the other person for their choice. Their choice. So I'm learning not to get angry when people do things, even if it is to hurt me, because they choose to do that. Now, if it is something that I can do something about, I will. But if it's something that I cannot do anything about, it's like water on a duck's back. So there you have it. As for eating, dieting, and longevity, I think a lot of it has to do with gluttony, really. As for me, I try to practice intermittent fasting, and it seems to work for me. As a matter of fact, when I get up in the morning, I'll have a glass of room temperature water, followed by perhaps a cup of coffee and a slice of toast, and that'll be it until noon or 1 o'clock or so. And then, to me, I have gotten into that habit, so it's no longer a stressful thing. It is what I do. So I think gluttony plays a part of it. I try to eat perhaps 70 to 80% of what I need to eat. In other words, I try not to eat until I'm full. When I reach about 60 or 70 or 80%, I stop eating. It's part of the discipline. Now it has become a habit. See what I mean? So, that's my little chit-chat. My little chit-chat, off the cuff, unscripted chit-chat about longevity. So, there you have it. And I'm sure you're going to have your own points of view, aren't you? And that's a good thing. Now, let me get back to reading about the things that Marcus Aurelius say.